again, there's like legit science stuff going on that happens when you are stressed, which is why you have little desire in sex.
Hi there, you're listening to the Kingdom Sexuality podcast. We're Alana, Kyle, and Tira, friends who have a heart for intimacy and long to uncover God's truth and design for sexual freedom within marriage. If you enjoy listening to our episodes or like our content over on Instagram, would you consider leaving a review or subscribing? It really helps. Welcome here.
All right, we are back for another episode of the Kingdom Sexuality podcast. I am Kyle, joined by Tira and Alana. A special welcome to all of our patrons. Thank you guys so much for your support. Over at Patreon, we let you guys vote on the episodes, and you get free stuff and special discounts and all sorts of good stuff. So if you want to join us over there, patreon.com/Kingdom Sexuality. And
they chose this episode, did they not?
Yes, this is an episode you guys chose. And yeah, follow us over there. And if you want to follow us on social media, we have links in the show notes. All right, before we get going, guys, one way that you guys can also support the podcast that costs nothing is just by giving us a rating and or a review. So if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcast, if you wouldn't mind pausing and just leave us a review, that is a super, super helpful way that we can expand the podcast and help reach more marriages, which is ultimately our goal. Yeah. So thank you guys who have done it. If you haven't done it, we would love you to do that and we'd be super appreciative of it. All right, today's verse is Ecclesiastes 4, verses 9 through 12. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if two lie down together, they will keep warm. But how can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. Nice. Such a great passage talking about how we can help each other and what marriage is like and all the ways that it's better to be together than alone. Mm-hmm. Not that singleness is a bad thing at all. I'm not saying that, but marriage is a good thing. Mm-hmm. That is my point. Especially when it comes to stress, which is what we're talking about today. And you knew that because you clicked on this episode. But sex and stress, it's a big deal. It can be a really negative thing and it can be a really positive thing. So let's talk a little bit about the science first. So if stress is affecting your sex life, you're not broken. You're not less spiritual. You're not imagining things. There is actual science to back up exactly what's going on in your marriage and what you're experiencing in yourself and what you feel like you're experiencing in your spouse. So we're going to go over some hormones because hormones play the massive role in this. So cortisol is what happens when we are stressed. Our bodies produce elevated levels of cortisol, which is the stress hormone. And recent research has come out to show that women who have increased cortisol response to sexual situations actually have lower sexual functioning overall. So it's like your body saying, hey, sorry, I'm in survival mode. Like getting pregnant can wait. So, it also doesn't just raise the cortisol. It actively suppresses testosterone and estrogen production in both men and women. So one study actually found that stress-related hormone deficiency, particularly low DHEA, which helps produce estrogen and testosterone, directly contributes to decreased sexual desire. So again, there's like legit science stuff going on that happens when you are stressed, which is why you have little desire in sex.
And I feel like that's why every self-help thing is like reduce stress. Reduce stress. Like that's
exactly.
We all kind of roll our eyes, but no, like it actually has effect in our body, in hormones that are being produced that do other things that should be doing other things that can't because they're blocked by cortisol.
Totally. Yeah. So here's what's also interesting. Researchers found that while hormones play a role, the biggest factor in stress-related sexual problems is actually psychological distraction. So when your mind is racing about tomorrow's presentation, the kids, lunches, your to-do list, budget, whatever it is, it's almost impossible to be present and vulnerable with your spouse. One of the research papers that I looked up concluded high levels of chronic stress were related to lower levels of genital sexual arousal. Both psychological distraction and hormonal increased cortisol factors were related to the lower levels of sexual arousal seen in women women high in chronic stress, but distraction was the only significant predictor when controlling for other variables.
Distraction was the only predictor when controlling. What does that mean?
So the more, not necessarily the fact that they, like the hormone stuff that's going on, it was the psychological stuff that was a heavier predictor of if stress is affecting them more than just the physiological stuff going on. So the psychological stuff played a bigger role in lower libido than the physiological stuff did. And I'll just read a couple other conclusions that I found when I was reading some research. So one study said, we found that stressful days increase the probability of having sex on a subsequent day, so delaying sex, and that sexual intercourse relieves stress for both men and women in satisfying relationships, but not in unsatisfying relationships. Which I found pretty interesting.
That is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So one other one, research shows that sexual activity promotes better sleep. Specifically, having sex may help you fall asleep faster and the quality of your sleep may be better too. Which, if you've listened to our sleep and sex episode, you would know that already.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you would.
So what does this look like? How do we actually apply this to real life and to our marriage? So I think one thing that's interesting is this is why hotel sex and vacation sex are so great, right? It's a change of scenery. You've got low mental load. Your stress levels are way down. You're able to be more vulnerable and open and present actually having sex with your spouse. And that's why it's so great. Yep. Especially, I would say this is going to affect the women way more because they carry a lot more mental load sometimes and have a harder time kind of like quote unquote letting go. So when there's no distractions, there's no kids, there's no to-do list, you're just on vacation or you're at the hotel for the night.
And you see a nice clean room.
That's right. There we go.
The bed.
That's
the
right.
Fresh sheets that turn you on.
Nothing else anywhere in the room.
Yep. It also validates why some seasons of marriage feel sexually dry, right? Major life transitions, job changes, health scares, having kids, all these different seasons where stress levels are high. Sex is going to fall off the priority list because it's just not on your mind, right? Stress is taking over and sex is getting suppressed, or the thoughts of sex are getting suppressed.
It is interesting from that fact that you stated earlier about sex relieves stress for both men and women in satisfying relationships. So if you are in a healthy relationship and you are feeling stressed, sex can be one of those things that helps stress levels come down.
Totally. But it's going to take a lot more mental load, let's just say, to go there because it's not going to be top of mind, right? So it's like, hey, you know what? We're really stressed right now. Let's see if this helps. Yeah. Whereas, it's just going to take that awareness.
Yeah. I know in Ruth's book, Awaken Love.
You don't want to say her last name?
She talks about how, when they have major discussions about things, they will often have sex first to help with, it would in the end help with the stress of whatever that big decision was or what that big discussion was going to be. And so they purposely have sex beforehand or in the middle of sometimes. But you definitely need to figure out how to get there mentally to do that. But if you have it in your mind, like, okay, we're a team, we're going to do this and we're going to have some fun in the middle of it to lighten things up, that might be a way to help. Mm-hmm.
So on the other side of this conversation, sex can be that stress reliever. Right. So this is one of the brilliant designs of God designing us, is that sex is this beautiful built-in stress relief system. So what actually happens when we have sex? During physical intimacy, your body releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Research shows that this hormone directly decreases stress and anxiety levels while increasing feelings of trust and connection. So not only does the sex help to release oxytocin, but it also decreases levels of adrenaline and cortisol. So remember, in the first section, we talked about cortisol being that stress hormone. Oxytocin is going to decrease levels of that because they can't coexist. One will always dominate more than the other or be in the majority. So during sex, oxytocin takes over. Cortisol can't be as effective in making you feel stressed because you're getting this relief, all these feel-good stuff going on.
Other than sex, what else would increase oxytocin levels for a person?
Depends if it's male or female. We have different ways to boost it. I know for women, I always think of this, doing things that are relaxing, like having a bath, or if you have
What if
pets,
you don't like baths?
well, a shower or hot. One that I always remember, I can't remember which, but really old book. Women are from Mars, men are from Venus. Did you ever read those books? Or
No.
one book? It's actually really good. Anyway, on one of them, he has a whole section in the back on how to up your oxytocin levels for the women. And one of them that I always remember is petting your pets, like that soft texture feeling, and of something being warm and close to you. It's like that's why like holding a baby or that sort of thing. Those increase your oxytocin. Also talking, being with your girlfriends, that also boosts it. I don't know what does it for guys.
It's like it says, it's the bonding hormone, right? Where any time where there is intimacy, and not just sexual intimacy, so any type of closeness, so like a hug will do it, physical touch will do it.
Isn't
That's
that
not
where
sexual.
you have like the 20-second hug?
The 20-second hug.
The purpose that it's 20 seconds is because it releases oxytocin.
Yeah. So the hugs, kissing, any close touch, like Tira said, conversation, anything where you're doing something that will make you feel connected to someone else or intimate with someone else. We'll do it. I'd be curious if there was any studies done on like spiritual intimacy leading to higher levels of oxytocin, like praying together or reading the Bible together, those types of things. But
that would be a bonding experience. So.
I totally agree.
Yeah. Right.
Also, it can be a natural painkiller. So this is, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, where you have a sore spot and you don't notice it during sex, right? Because all this feel good stuff is going on and you're not necessarily aware of the pain in that moment. So sex triggers the release of endorphins, dopamine, serotonin, and prolactin, especially after orgasm. All these things are going to be flooding your system. One study found that this combination can help alleviate stress, improve sleep quality, and even reduce pain, including migraines. So the joke about like, hey, I got a headache. Well, let's have sex. Like there's a little bit of science to that. It's not just your husband making a joke every time. There's a little bit of science there. Long-term, regular sexual activity has been associated with lower baseline cortisol levels and better overall stress management skills. So again, it's like a reset on the nervous system. It's this built-in stress relief system that God has given us. So on the one hand, yes, stress does reduce the sexual desire, but it can also relieve the stress. So again, it comes down to this awareness of using it to your advantage and being aware of when it is a disadvantage for you. So sometimes the most loving thing we can do is engage physically, right? If you see someone is stressed out and you know that they will respond well to that, you can do that. Again, not out of obligation. Well, your spouse.
That person looks stressed out.
Yeah.
You would have some sex. That would make you feel so much better.
Yeah, don't do that. Maybe tell them, hey, you should go have sex with your spouse right now. You look really stressed out.
That's like your friends are talking to you. Oh, I'm so stressed out. Okay, we'll have sex. You'll feel better after.
Yeah.
Someone.
And again, like the non-sexual touch can be good too. So it doesn't always have to go to sex. Sex is going to give you the highest concentrations of all these feel-good hormones and stuff, but you can get it from the non-physical stuff as well. And then just creating time for it. We've talked about it a million times. Create the space, create the time, make it a priority, build it into part of your routine if you need to, schedule it if you need to, all the things you've heard us talk about before, if you've been around for any length of time. So what does the Bible have to say about all this? Because that is a very important part of how we live our lives. So God designed marriage for mutual care. So if you look at the scriptures, the husband, classic verse, 1 Corinthians 7, 3-5. The husband should fulfill his marital duty to his wife. Likewise, the wife to her husband. Do not deprive each other except perhaps by mutual consent for a time so that you may devote yourselves to prayer. So this idea, again, of taking care of one another, right? Back and forth, selflessness in marriage. We talk about that again all the time, right? It's not about obligation. This verse has been twisted and used in so many negative and coercive ways. That's not at all what we're talking about. We're talking about this selfless expression of love and serving your spouse.
Yeah.
And this can be a way to help carry each other's burdens. So again, that idea of stress. Hey, I see you're stressed. Would it be a good idea if we connect in this way? Or would you like to go have sex? Or whatever that is in that moment. Just, it can be this way of mutually caring for one another. And I think that is one of the main like goals of sex, right? This idea of selflessness. Sex should be pleasurable, selfless, and God honoring. Those are like the three things I like to always go back to. And then there's the idea of remaining one flesh, even during stress. So Ephesians 5 says, in the same way, husbands should love their wives as their own bodies. He who loves his wife loves himself. For no one ever hated his own flesh, but nourishes and cherishes it, just as Christ does the church. So a verse here to remind us that caring for our spouse is like caring for our own body. So you guys do carry each other's weight through even these really stressful periods, because your spouse's stress is still going to affect you, and your stress is going to affect your spouse, right?
Yeah.
That's just the reality of being stressed. But as an individual, I would say your spouse is not responsible for managing your stress. They can help, but ultimately your stress, it is up to you to manage. And
not sure.
Just try again. What are you trying to say?
Like, you are the one who is not just responsible for, like you're responsible for your own stress, but it's your thing to conquer. Like, it's you are the one who's going to be able to de-stress yourself. You're the one who's going to be like, your stress is your thing. Like, yes, your spouse is there to help you. Your spouse is there to, provide support, but ultimately it's going to be actions that you take and decisions that you make that's going to help decrease your stress.
And like people navigate stress different ways. Like Jeff and I both, when we're stressed, we respond differently to it. Right. And so in some capacities, it's a very personal thing to navigate, because his advice to me when I'm stressed would be what works for him when he's stressed, maybe, or what he thinks will help me when I'm feeling stressed out, but might not actually be what helps me feel less stressed, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And your spouse can't read your mind. So when you are stressed, you need to communicate it. You need to communicate what you need. You need to communicate how your spouse can help you de-stress. That is your responsibility.
Yeah. And to be able to listen and not discount what they're feeling, or you shouldn't be stressed out about that. Like, why is that bothering you? Yeah, right? Like, that's not helpful. But yes, so instead be, what can I do to help you, or how can I navigate? Kira, what were you saying?
I was going to say once you're past that stressful time, if you can look back on and say, hey, during that time when I was stressful, when you did such and such, that really helped. Like, let's try to remember that for next time, because that was really, a big deal. That helped a lot.
Yeah, no, that's really wise. God's design for rest and restoration. Like, very early on, God wove this into creation, right? Genesis 2. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it, God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. God, from very early on, is establishing this divine pattern of work and rest. So if you are not Sabbathing, or you're not giving yourself the appropriate rest, look at your routine. How can you weave that in? Because it is extremely, extremely important, especially for those of us who are working or are parents. It's very easy to just feel like you're always on the go and you never have a moment to rest. So actually scheduling in your rest is really important, especially when you're stressed. Getting the right amount of sleep, like we've talked about.
What's the book? Is it John Mark Comer's book where he talks about this in depth?
Practicing the Way, I think.
No, but there was an earlier one, the very first, the Garden City.
Ruthless Elimination of Hurry.
Okay. Then there's also, I think Garden City is the one where he talks about Sabbath. I'm going to look it up quickly.
And even I think in Justin Whitmore Early's Habits of the Household, he talks about like different liturgies and just different practices to incorporate Yeah, really good.
Yeah,
There's a
Garden
ton of
City.
different resources out there. Okay, if you're looking for like practically what does this look like, or how can I do this, and what resources can I consume to get better at this, there are tons of really, really fantastic resources.
Yeah.
So I can link some of those in the show notes. People are keen.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have this perspective of like stewardship, right? Sexual intimacy is a gift. You should steward it well. It should be included in these stressful seasons because we already talked about the science behind how it can be a stress reliever.
Yeah.
Which is God's design, right? He's smart. He knows what he's doing. The way that our brains react to stress, the way that our brains react to sex as stress relief. So all these things we've talked about, just reiterating them here, right? Neglecting your physical intimacy due to stress might actually end up being poor stewardship of this gift that God has given us of sex.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get practical here. So navigating the different types of stress responses, like Alana said, recognizing that everyone's going to do stress differently. The way that I respond to stress, the way that my wife responds to stress, the way that our kids respond to stress are all going to be different just because we're different, right? God made us different. Not wrong, just different. So one person may be craving this physical connection when things are really stressful or when they're really stressed. And this is where communication will be really important, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I'm going through a really hard time. Can we make space for connection? Or can we talk about how we can work through this together? And then it gets into this tricky topic of, okay, if you are stressed or if I'm stressed and intimacy is something that really helps me de-stress, but you don't want that, then how are we going to navigate that? Right? This idea of some people call it like, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think if you are relying on your spouse to give you sex to de-stress, that would be the wrong type of sex. Like it should be the bonus on top of things to help bring you together, and it shouldn't be used as the tool to de-stress. It needs to be
right.
It needs to be your spouse also needs to want it.
In conjunction to like connection and having conversations and closeness being provided in those capacities.
Yeah. And not using it as an excuse like, oh man, today was a really stressful day. I think we need sex.
Mm-hmm.
And
right.
That becomes like a regular thing. Then it's like, okay, well, maybe we need to address what the stress is and find ways to lower it. Because so it can go a dangerous route, but hopefully your heart is in the right place and you guys can communicate about it and still be selfless to one another.
And I would say if you are the spouse who is not stressed and your spouse is stressed and you know that, sex does help your spouse de-stress, in the same vein, it's not wrong to go and initiate that because you know it does help them de-stress.
Yeah, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk a little bit about guilt. So oftentimes, if you're stressed and you're the lower desire spouse and there's not a lot of sex going on, this can actually be like another thing to pile onto your stress because now you're feeling guilty. It's like, oh, but we should be having sex still. And I'm so sorry that I'm so stressed and we're not having sex. And it can become this really negative loop that just builds on your stress and doesn't actually break any cycle. So we have to find a way to break that cycle. And that can look like a million different things. But see this idea of sex adding on to stress because there's a lack of, that is a very real reality for a lot of people and needs to be broken.
And let's just point out too that sex doesn't just like, we're not talking about just penis and vagina sex. This is intimacy. So if you're a lower drive spouse who doesn't necessarily want intercourse, but you think of other ways that you can be intimate with your spouse that that doesn't make you feel guilty for not wanting it. Like think of ways that you could connect with your spouse that would actually fill your bucket.
Yeah,
it's good.
Okay, let's close off here with some very practical steps. So we got 5 things here that you as a couple can do to manage stress as it relates to sex and vice versa. So, Alana, do you want to read some of these?
Sure. A stress inventory. So identifying your current major stressors as a couple. That's a good one. I feel like actually sitting down and talking through, okay, even like what have you seen in me lately that's stressed me out, right? Like calling it out for each other could be really helpful. Like, I feel like you've been really stressed out with the kids' extracurricular schedules, or I feel like you've been really stressed out with work or with your parents or whatever, and identifying what actually has been going on. Where are the stressors? I think that's really, it's helpful because you might not even know. And maybe it's like, oh yeah, I was actually stressed out about those schedules and I totally forgot about that. But identifying it. And then have a communication plan. Agree on how to signal when stress is affecting intimacy. So
this is good because sometimes it's really hard to communicate how stressed you are or what is stressing you. So if you have like a signal like, hey, I don't even know what I would make up, but hey, I see the signal. Hey, what's going on? Can we talk about it?
Yeah. Kind of, I spoke on this earlier, but alternative intimacy. So when, sexual intimacy feels overwhelming, explore non-sexual physical touch. Again, what intimacy fills your bucket? Go to those ones first.
And then managing the stress, right? Getting to the root causes of the stress. And this might involve a third party. This might involve a pastor or a mentor or actual counseling to get to, hey, where is this coming from? How can we rid this from our lives right now, right?
Maybe your spouse is stressing you out. Like maybe you need counseling.
True.
That's the problem.
Yeah, we didn't address that.
Yeah.
So it's not like you're stressing me out right now. Like I don't like, there's not a great way to go about that, but I feel like having a third party present to navigate that is probably pretty essential.
Yeah. And I'd say like, lastly, just remember that there's grace, right? Be gracious with your spouse because you would want them to be gracious with you. And 99% of these times, these seasons aren't forever. It will end, right? It's not, this too shall pass. So, all right, I will close us in prayer here. All right, God, thank you for designing marriage as a place of care and support. Thank you for creating our bodies with systems for stress relief and bonding. Thank you for this idea of selflessness that we can serve our spouse, thinking about them first, just like you have done with us. Would couples who are going through seasons of intense stress right now, would you just make it light, right? The Bible says that your burden is light, and we ask that you would lay that upon them right now, that they would feel that lightness throughout their lives, and that they would take some of these practical steps to help themselves, whether that's counseling or prayer or inventory, whatever it is that they need to do to work through this stressful season, and that they would come out the other side closer to each other and closer to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Hey friends, thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you like our content, please like, review, and subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and tell your friends too. Thanks so much for journeying with us today as we tackled the hard questions and dive deep into godly intimacy. Make sure you follow us on Instagram to see more of our content, and check the show notes for any links we might have mentioned in today's episode. We're so grateful to be on this journey with you, and we can't wait to see you in the next episode.